The United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva has just elected a number of new members to the Council, amongst whom are Russia and China and Vietnam and Algeria and Saudi Arabia. What a travesty that is. Can you imagine sitting down and seriously discussing women's rights with Saudi Arabia, or human rights with China or Vietnam, or humanitarian aid with a country that is really volatile like Algeria, or lesbian and gay rights with Russia? It casts an unhappy pall over the entire human rights establishment of the United Nations. Second, the Commonwealth meeting in Sri Lanka has necessarily focused on the end of the civil war in 2009, when there were those terrible atrocities committed by the government against the Tamil minority, and necessarily that caused intense controversy. But what was never said was that 41 of the 53 countries of the Commonwealth have laws that criminalize homosexuality. And apart from the impact of the extreme criminalization itself, of course, it leads to the transmission of the AIDS virus. And yet the Secretariat of the Commonwealth did not have the courage to put it on the agenda. Honestly, the Commonwealth is verging on farce. And finally, you have the ongoing negotiations in Warsaw over the whole question of climate change, and the recognition amongst all of the delegates that what has happened in the Philippines is inevitably a direct consequence of the turbulent weather conditions caused by the discharge of carbon into the atmosphere. Katrina was no accident, the earthquake in Haiti was no accident, the tsunami in South and Southeast Asia was no accident, Hurricane Sandy that inundated New York State and New Jersey was no accident, the droughts in the Midwest of the United States, no accident. These are the consequences of climate change. But on top of that, during the course of the conference in Warsaw, there was released a monograph demonstrating that the discharge of carbon is so extreme now that it has caused the extreme acidification of the oceans, so that all of the biodiversity and so many of the species and the coral reefs, the elements in the food chain, are disintegrating. And it will cause enormous food insecurity down the road. And yet there's unlikely ever to be any conclusion, because countries like Canada and the United States will not join a convention on climate change. Oh, by God, it is insufferable. By the way, if you ever happen to see Bill Gates or send him a note, you might tell him to stop investing in Exxon and BP. I mean, for a man who wants to preserve the health of the planet, it would be useful not to contribute to those who are so profoundly damaging the planet. That was last week. I'm Stephen Lewis.